on fake news or corrupt cops. Okay. In 1991, a taxi driver named Rodney King was driving down a highway in Los Angeles. He was pulled over by a police officer, and the situation quickly escalated. Rodney King was brutally beaten by the police officer. On a nearby balcony, a man was filming the whole incident, and that led to widespread media coverage and backlash against police officers all across the nation. Then in 2014, everyone knows this story or the gist of it. Michael Brown was shot and killed in Ferguson, Missouri. He was pulled over by a police officer, and he held his hands up, saying "Don't shoot." And that slogan, "Hands up, don't shoot," was used in both violent and peaceful protests across the nation to kind of spread awareness for his case and just alleged police brutality. So most news stories highlight the negative side of police officers. In this graph, in a poll done by the Pew Research Center, they asked police officers whether they feel that the media mistreats them. Only 42% of police officers strongly agree that they are mistreated and the media portrays them in an unfair manner, while only 4% strongly disagree with that statement. Since the Michael Brown shooting, a lot of police officers have faced backlash. They're seen as the bad guys and the suspects, and the suspects are seen as the victims. An example of the police officers stepping down because of backlash, in an article written by Valerie Richardson in the Washington Post, she details an event where in Portland, Oregon, the mayor of Portland commanded officers to stand back during a protest where the protesters were harassing drivers who were driving, just simply driving down the road. The mayor, kind of defended his stance because he believed that, the media and the community would get mad at police officers for doing their job just by stepping in and, keeping civilians safe. And he said that, the community isn't always satisfied with what the police officers do, so he just kind of wanted to pull back on the police officer presence in that situation. So police officers are seen in a negative light. They're all the stories you see in the news highlight the really bad situations, but many civilians don't realize that officers have to follow levels of escalation in a situation. So when they are in an encounter with a perpetrator, they have to use their own discretion to establish their use of force and how they're gonna handle the person, and it just kind of depends on the situation. So raise your hand if you've seen the show Cops or Live PD, or a show where police officers are being followed by a camera crew. Well, many civilians believe that once they have seen even just a few episodes of those shows, that they believe, or once they've seen a few episodes, that they completely understand how police work, how police officers handle situations, and that they completely understand the job. But in another poll done by the Pew Research Center, they asked the public and police officers how well they understand the risks and challenges that officers face daily. 86% of the public believe that they do very well and somewhat well, while 86% of officers believe that the public doesn't understand at all. And a personal story, I always watch Live PD with my grandparents at their house, and my grandparents are very critical of the show, because they're that officer shouldn't be doing that, just because they see it differently, even though that's not protocol that officers would follow. So you gotta keep that in mind too. Police officers face constant stress because they never know what's gonna happen when they encounter any situation. When they come up to a house or simply do a routine traffic stop, they don't know how the suspect or the perpetrator is gonna react, so they're always in constant stress. Because the media has been focusing so strongly on that, police officers are bad, their stress is heightened, and so they like won't do their job as effectively as they should because they're afraid of what the community and the media will say. So going forward, the media and the community should understand like the police officer's perspective. Like police officers just want to get home to their families every night, and since the community are like will fight back against police officers because obviously you don't want to get arrested, but they make the job a lot harder and more difficult because they're fighting back and they're saying all these rude and like things just out of like hate and anger. But if the media can use their influence to show that police officers are good and they're here to serve and protect, like the community will trust people who are wearing the uniforms in the badge to like help our community and keep us safe. The road is going to be long and hard, but it's going to be worth it and like beneficial for everyone involved. So I believe that if like we can just understand that like police officers just want to like keep everyone safe and go home to their families, then the situation could be resolved fairly quickly.